What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Port Adelaide versus Essendon. It's a big week. Round 16 is upon us. We're back to full rounds again. All 9 games we'll be playing, and it's going to be a very, very interesting back end to the year. The bye we're done. It was boring. I didn't like it. I hate the bye. I miss Port Adelaide. And since we're doing well this year so far, it was a little bit more depressing, the fact that I didn't get to see my team play on the weekend. But we're back this week. It's a big game. And we just know how crucial a bye can be for both the positive and the negative. So we'll get through that throughout this preview. I also just want to touch on, before we go into the preview side of things, congratulations to Mark Choco Williams for being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, Australian Rules Football Hall of Fame. It's just a magnificent achievement, well deserved, and full credit to him and his journey and everything he's done for the football club in particular, because without him, we wouldn't have that premiership, and we wouldn't have the iconic choking sign that he's has become so iconic for. So well done, Choco. Congratulations, and thank you for doing everything you've done for Port Adelaide. Now, let's get straight into it, and let's preview round 16, Port Adelaide versus Essendon. So the key stat is 0-7. This has nothing to do with Port Adelaide's losing streak. It has nothing to do with Port Adelaide's winning streak. It has nothing to do with Port Adelaide yet. It is the streak that is losing to for teams that have come off the bye. So every team that's come off the bye so far has lost. This is an interesting stat, because on one hand, I'm like, you know what, it's a reasonable stat. It's got obviously history. It's got a lot of support behind it, a lot of evidence to suggest it is a real problem, and a lot of evidence to suggest that you should tip Essendon this week. On the other hand, there is a Port Adelaide side on a winning streak and with confidence and a well-deserved rest behind them that suggests that they're going to buck the trend. It is a massive trend. Like, it is something that's so hard to overcome. A lot of the teams that have come off the bye have actually travelled away and lost. And another thing, again, we play at the MCG against the Bombers, which, mind you, is the first time we've played Essendon at the MCG in 25 years. We've always played them at Marvel, always played them at Adelaide Oval, Amy Stadium throughout the time. 25 years. We haven't played them since 1998. That baffles me. So that's another interesting thing to take into consideration for this game. Overall, I have so much confidence in this group at the moment. I do believe that we come through and come to the MCG this weekend. We've got a big contingent of Port fans travelling. It's going to be a massive game. And I think to solidify ourselves in the top 2, it's a game we must win, and a game that I'm hoping we do win. Obviously, Essendon are coming off a big loss to Fremantle over in Perth, so for them to come back home and fighting for a top 8 spot, it is definitely crucial. And you just got to look back to when we played them only a few weeks back now. Back in round 9, we played them at round 8. It was at Adelaide Oval, only won by 5 points in a game of football that was so high speed. It was very, very, very intense. There was a lot of missed opportunities by Port Adelaide, and then a lot of missed opportunities late by Essendon. And just in the end, it was a game that we ended up ticking the box with. And again, I think this weekend will be quite similar. I don't know how to feel about Essendon in terms of their credibility at the moment in the top 8. They definitely have had some great games and great wins, but also I do feel like they are. I feel like most teams that are between that 5th and 12th spot are really just all in the same category. They're just fighting it out, and then there's a clear-cut rest of the field at the top. So, in saying that, Port Adelaide can be they can be a team that can start slowly, and Essendon have obviously started again some games really well. And I think overall as a team, Essendon can be quite a bogey side. And I have stated multiple times that looking at the fixture for the rest of the year, this would set ourselves up really nicely for the next month. We've got Gold Coast next week at home, and then Carlton, and then Collingwood, which would be the big game that could decide the minor premiership. But you've got to take it 1 week at a time. You look at Essendon, they've got some great speed, they've got some great youngsters. Nick Martin's in some fantastic form. Peter Wright's back in, kicking goals. I think their back line doesn't match up so well with our forward line, Dixon, Finlayson, and Marshall, and obviously the youngsters around. You got Powell-Pepper as a small. You got McEntee, who's playing really well. Rioli will probably come back into the side, being sick. Narkle's now in the side as well. I just find that our forward line cohort is just very damaging. And once they get on a roll, they get on a roll really well. So that's probably one thing to watch, is how they match up down back with ours in terms of forward line. And obviously, you flip it to the other end, and you've got Wiedemann, you've got Peter Wright, and it's going to be something that you just look at and think, our backline's quite small. Mackenzie, Aaliyah, Burton, it's interesting. I don't know how we're going to look at that in terms of what we match up with, but it'll be intriguing. And then you got the midfield, and the midfield speaks for itself. Butters, Rosie, Horne-Francis, Boak, Drew, sensational players. Wines, I shouldn't even forget about him. Played his best game against Geelong. It's going to be a massive task. Merritt, Shields, they've got some good youngsters in there, Essendon. So I think we match up quite well. It's just a matter of applying this. This is the thing. If we come across to the G after a bye, refreshed and still mentally focused and motivated, I don't see how we lose this game. But in saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if we do. The streak's got to end soon. And if it doesn't this year, then blimey, we're going to have a fantastic year. But I'm just saying, I'm not going to be surprised if we lose a game of football here or there, because sometimes, eventually, it does happen. And it doesn't matter the opposition. I just have a feeling that this game is a real slip in the shower, type game where you could just slip up and then everything falls off. So I just hope that we come over with a strong mentality, and then really implement our structures and do what we've done right. The streaks of everything. Dill Williams hasn't lost a game. Ken Hinkley on the bench. Josh Carr back at Port Adelaide. You name it. We've won our first game at the G this year. We lost our only game at the G so far this year. So it's good practice as well to be at the MCG and really try and implement that. I'm sorry, I just remembered that we won against the Tigers. So we're 1-1 at the G so far this year. Both games have not been pretty, regardless of the result. So maybe that changes this weekend. Okay, so I'm tipping Port Adelaide by 15 points. I do think we'll get the job done. I think our star power is just going to be a little bit better than Essendon's. And overall, I think we just have a good, strong group, positive, happy at the moment. And regardless of what happens this weekend, we're still going to be in a strong position for a top 2 finish. So we just have to tick a few boxes, get things right, and buck the trend against that bye. Because if we do that, then we sail into Gold Coast next week with even more confidence. Just quickly as well, if you haven't seen my Miles Bergman video from last week, there is an update on Miles Bergman, and that is that he is strongly suggested to stay at Port Adelaide beyond 2023, which is a huge result for this group of players. Obviously a lot of focus has gone into the youngsters and really trying to get them into a strong position, healthy position at the club. And Bergman has developed into that this year and is really starting to make a name for himself across the AFL board, not just at Port Adelaide. So for him to suggest that now he wants to strongly put pen to paper and stay at Port Adelaide is a great positive tick of the box for Port Adelaide in keeping players, and another one that's on the list that wouldn't leave Port Adelaide because it's just a strong player culture, and it's a real happy environment at the moment. So why would you change? Big game this one. Thank you so much for watching, Port fans. Make sure you check out the rest of the videos on the channel. The Glass Table just came out a couple of days ago. Make sure you check out the latest episode there and subscribe to the channel for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content to come your way across the rest of the year. Let's hope for a big win on the weekend. My name is Anthony, and as always, count the pair.